The impossible mission. The Galactic Assembly Chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from 37 spacefaring civilizations filled the vast circular hall, their voices creating a chaotic symphony of clicks, whistles, and translated speech. Emotions ran high as holographic displays at the center of the chamber showed the impending disaster. 2 neutron stars on a collision course in the Cygnus arm, their impact predicted to release a gamma-ray burst powerful enough to sterilize 12 inhabited star systems. Ambassador Xilith, a tall, 6-limbed Ardani with luminescent skin that pulsed with stress patterns, raised all 4 of his primary appendages to command attention. Order. We must maintain order. His translator amplified his voice across the chamber. The din gradually subsided. The situation is grave. According to our most advanced predictive models, the neutron star collision will occur in exactly 72 Earth hours. The resulting gamma-ray burst will travel outward at light speed, reaching the nearest inhabited world, Perdica II, within 18 hours after the collision. A holographic map expanded to show the affected region. 12 star systems illuminated in red. Population figures scrolled beside each system. 3.2 billion on Perdica II, 1.7 billion on Ta Vega, 4.5 billion on New Gliese. The total came to nearly 26 billion sentient lives across multiple species. Evacuation is impossible given the time frame, continued Xilith, his skin darkening to a deep indigo, the Ardani color of morning. Even with our fastest ships operating at maximum capacity, we could save less than 0.01% of the population. A gelatinous Melberry representative rippled forward, their translucent bodies shifting to form rudimentary sound organs. The Melberry Collective has analyzed all possible interventions. There exists no known technology capable of diverting neutron stars of this mass or shielding against a gamma-ray burst of this magnitude. We have run 12.7 million simulations. Every outcome leads to the same conclusion. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. 26 billion lives would be extinguished in less than 4 days, and the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy were powerless to prevent it. Perhaps, ventured a crystalline Vox hive mind, light refracting through its angular body, we should focus our efforts on preserving the cultural heritage of the affected worlds. We can dispatch data collection ships immediately to. The massive doors to the assembly chamber slid open with a hydraulic hiss, interrupting the Vox. A delegation of 5 humans strode in confidently, drawing all eyes in the room. The lead figure, a dark-skinned woman with close-cropped silver hair wearing what appeared to be a military uniform by human standards, approached the central platform without hesitation. Captain Maya Rodriguez, Earth Alliance, she announced, her voice steady and commanding despite being surrounded by beings from civilizations thousands of years more advanced than her own. Sorry we're late. Had to make a few last-minute calculations. Ambassador Xilith's skin flickered with patterns of confusion and mild irritation. Captain Rodriguez, while we appreciate Earth's concern, this emergency session addresses a crisis beyond your species' technological capabilities. Your presence was not expected. Maya nodded respectfully but continued undeterred. We intercepted your distress signal and analyzed the data. We understand the situation with the neutron stars. She gestured to one of her team, a lanky man with neural interface implants visible at his temples, who projected a hologram from a device on his wrist. Dr. Sanjay Rao, Earth Alliance Astrophysics Division. The man introduced himself. We've developed a working theory on how to address this crisis. The Melberry representative's body undulated with what translated as incredulous laughter. Forgive us, but Earth achieved faster than light travel less than 15 years ago. Our civilizations have studied neutron star dynamics for millennia. There is no solution. With respect, Maya replied, sometimes fresh eyes see what experienced ones have learned to overlook. She gestured to Dr. Rao, who expanded the holographic display to show a complex series of equations and a schematic of a ship unlike anything the assembly had seen before. "We've been experimenting with a technology we call quantum field manipulation," Rao explained. Originally developed for deep space mining operations, it uses precisely calibrated graviton beams to create localized space-time distortions. The Vox hive mind pulsed with interest. "You propose to alter the trajectory of neutron stars. The energy requirements alone would be—" "No," interrupted Maya. "We can't move the stars. But we believe we can create a temporary space-time fold that would redirect the gamma-ray burst away from the inhabited systems. Essentially, we'd be bending light around an obstacle, except in this case, the obstacle is 12 star systems." The chamber erupted in multilingual discussions as the alien representatives analyzed the human proposal. Ambassador Xilith raised his appendages again for silence. "Your theory is intriguing, Captain Rodriguez. However, our physicists identify numerous fatal flaws. The closest safe distance for deploying such technology would be approximately 0.8 light-years from the collision point. At that range, the gravitational forces would tear apart any known starship material, and the radiation levels would be incompatible with biological life." Maya nodded. "We're aware of the risks. That's why we've retrofitted our prototype vessel, the Daedalus, with experimental shielding. And we've developed an automated deployment system that can operate even if the crew is incapacitated. You would need to position your ship precisely between the collision point and the affected systems," noted a reptilian Drax observer, their voice a low rumble. "Our calculations indicate survival probability under such conditions at 4.3%, and that assumes your technology functions as theorized, which our scientists find highly doubtful." Maya looked around the room, taking in the skeptical alien faces. 4% is better than 0. We're willing to try." "This is not bravery, Captain. This is suicide," stated Ambassador Xilith bluntly. Maya smiled slightly and turned to a stocky, red-haired woman at her side. "Commander Chen, hold my beer. We have a mission to prep for." The human idiom didn't translate properly, causing confusion among the alien representatives, but the meaning became clear as the human delegation turned to leave. "Captain Rodriguez," called Xilith, his skin now pulsing with patterns of concern and grudging respect. "The Assembly has not authorized this mission." Maya paused at the doorway. "With all due respect, Ambassador, we don't need your authorization. 26 billion lives are at stake. The Daedalus launches in 6 hours. The Daedalus looked nothing like a conventional starship. Its central hull was roughly spherical, surrounded by 8 massive pylons that housed the experimental graviton emitters. The ship had been repurposed from a deep space mining vessel, with significant modifications to accommodate the quantum field manipulation technology. In the ship's preparation bay, Maya addressed her volunteer crew of 15. The minimum needed to operate the complex systems. "I won't lie to you," she said, looking each crew member in the eye. "This mission has a low probability of success and an even lower probability of survival. Even if the technology works perfectly, we'll be subjected to radiation and gravitational forces beyond what any human has ever endured. The automated systems should deploy the quantum field generators even if we're incapacitated, but ideally, we'll be conscious enough to make any necessary adjustments." Lieutenant Commander Akira Tanaka, the ship's pilot, raised his hand. "Captain, the Ardani offered us access to their medical technology. With their stasis pods, they believe they could improve our survival odds to almost 7%. Maya nodded. "I've considered their offer. Anyone who wishes to use the Ardani stasis pods has my full permission. But I'll be staying fully conscious for the mission. I need to be able to make decisions in real time if something goes wrong with the automated systems." Dr. Rao stepped forward. "As the designer of the quantum field system, I also need to remain conscious. The technology is experimental. There may be adjustments needed that the AI can't anticipate. One by one, Each crew member declined the stasis option. Maya felt a swell of pride, but also the heavy weight of responsibility. These people were willing to face almost certain death on her order. "Very well," she said finally. "We launch in 5 hours. Get some rest, say your goodbyes, do whatever you need to do." As the crew dispersed, Ambassador Xilith approached Maya. He had insisted on coming aboard to observe the preparations, though he would not be joining the mission. "Your crew displays remarkable courage," he said, his skin pulsing with colors that the human eye could barely perceive. Respect and sadness intermingled. "It's not just courage," Maya replied. "It's who we are." Throughout human history, whenever someone said something was impossible, someone else took it as a challenge. "But this is beyond challenge, Captain. The forces you will encounter." Xilith paused, his translator struggling to convey the depth of his concern. "I have studied your species since you joined the galactic community. Humans have achieved in decades what took other species centuries. You push boundaries with remarkable ingenuity. But there are some boundaries that cannot be pushed." Maya smiled. "That's where we disagree, Ambassador. In our history, every generation had its impossible problems. Split the atom? Impossible. Reach the moon? Impossible. Cure aging? Impossible. Yet here we are." "This is different," insisted Xilith. "The laws of physics cannot be." "They can't be broken," Maya finished for him. "But they can be bent, worked around, or used in ways no one has thought of before. That's what we're good at." Xilith's skin rippled with a pattern Maya hadn't seen before. "Why?" he asked simply. "Why risk 15 lives on such a remote possibility? The affected systems are not even human colonies." Maya considered the question carefully. "Because we can help. Because if the situations were reversed, I'd hope someone would try to save Earth. Because saving lives is the right thing to do, regardless of species." Before Xilith could respond, Maya's communication implant chimed. "Captain, we've received updated telemetry from the Melbury observers," reported Commander Chen. "The neutron star's approach has accelerated. Collision is now predicted in 68 hours. "Understood. Prepare for immediate launch," Maya ordered. She turned back to Xilith. "It seems we're out of time for philosophical discussions. Ambassador, you should return to your ship." As Xilith departed, Maya made her way to the bridge of the Daedalus. The experimental vessel hummed with power as systems came online. On the main view screen, she could see a fleet of alien observation ships maintaining a respectful distance. None had offered to join the mission, but all wanted to witness humanity's audacious attempt. "All systems online," Captain reported Lieutenant Commander Tanaka from the pilot station. "Course plotted for the neutron star collision coordinates. Engineering reports quantum field generators at 98% capacity and rising," added Commander Chen. "We'll be at full power before we reach the deployment point." Maya settled into the captain's chair, feeling the weight of 26 billion lives on her shoulders. The odds were against them. The most advanced civilizations in the galaxy had deemed the mission impossible, but humans had a long history of accomplishing the impossible. "Commence launch sequence," she ordered. "Let's show the galaxy what humans can do." The Daedalus broke free from Earth's orbital dock and accelerated toward its rendezvous with destiny. Defying the impossible, the observation deck of the Ardani flagship Luminous Harmony was crowded with representatives from a dozen species, all eyes fixed on the long-range sensors tracking the human vessel Daedalus. Ambassador Xilith stood at the forefront, his skin cycling through patterns of anxiety as he watched the small ship push deeper into the danger zone surrounding the neutron stars. "They've passed the radiation threshold we calculated as the maximum survivable for organic life," noted a Vox observer, their crystalline form refracting light in patterns of fascination. "Yet their communications remain active." "Their ship's design is unorthodox," commented a Melbury scientist, gelatinous form rippling thoughtfully. "They appear to have adapted mining shield technology and repurposed it for radiation protection." "Crude, but evidently effective. Silith remained silent, watching as the Daedalus continued its approach. The vessel was now closer to the neutron stars than any ship had ever ventured. According to all established physics, the humans should already be dead, their ship crushed by gravitational forces or fried by radiation. Yet they persisted. "We're receiving a transmission from the human vessel," announced the communications officer. "On screen," ordered Silith. Captain Maya Rodriguez's face appeared, visibly strained. Blood vessels had burst in her left eye, and a thin trickle of blood ran from her nose. Behind her, the bridge of the Daedalus was bathed in red emergency lighting, and crew members could be seen working frantically at their stations. "Galactic Assembly, this is Daedalus," Maya reported, her voice hoarse but determined. "We've reached the calculated deployment zone for the quantum field generators. Gravitational stresses are significant, but the ship is holding together." "Barely, Captain Rodriguez," Silith responded, his skin pulsing with concern. "Our sensors indicate your ship's structural integrity is at 37% and falling. You must withdraw immediately." Maya managed a pained smile. "Negative, Ambassador. We're committed to the mission." She glanced off-screen. "Dr. Rao, status of the quantum field generators." The camera shifted to show Sanjay Rao, looking worse than Maya. Half his face was bruised from what appeared to be a console explosion, and he was strapped to his chair to combat the extreme gravitational forces. "Generators at 94% capacity," he reported. "The gravitational interference is more severe than we anticipated. We need to compensate by—" The transmission broke up momentarily, then returned. "Recalibrating the emitter array. Need 15 more minutes." "You don't have 15 minutes," interrupted a Melbury scientist. "The neutron stars will collide in 23 minutes, and our calculations show your vessel will experience structural failure in approximately 8 minutes. "Then we'll have to work faster," Maya replied simply. "We've come too far to fail now. Daedalus out." The transmission ended, leaving the alien observers in stunned silence. "Their courage is remarkable," said a reptilian Drax after a moment. "Misplaced, perhaps, but remarkable nonetheless." "It is not merely courage," Silith responded, his skin shifting to a thoughtful blue-green. "It is something uniquely human. They see the impossible not as a barrier, but as a challenge." On the main view screen, the Daedalus could be seen deploying its 8 massive pylons, forming an octagonal array around the central hull. Energy readings spiked as the quantum field generators powered up. "Energy output exceeding all known technological limitations," reported a Vox scientist, their crystalline form vibrating with excitement. "They've somehow modified their power quarto." The Vox broke off as alarms sounded across the observation deck. "Neutron stars accelerating toward collision," announced the Ardani sensor officer, their skin pulsing with urgency. "Impact in 18 minutes, ahead of predictions." Aboard the Daedalus, chaos reigned. The ship groaned under gravitational stresses that should have torn it apart. 3 crew members were already dead, victims of equipment explosions, as the ship's systems struggled against the extreme conditions. "Hull breach on Deck 3, shouted Commander Chen, gripping her console as the ship shuddered violently. "Automated seals holding for now, but we've lost the starboard sensor array." Maya fought against the crushing pressure that made every movement feel like swimming through concrete. "Reroute through backup systems," she ordered. "Dr. Rao, we need those quantum field generators online now." Rao's fingers danced across his console, leaving smears of blood from his torn fingernails. "The gravitational interference is creating harmonic resonance in the emitter array. If we activate now, the field will collapse immediately." "Can we compensate?" Maya demanded. "Not with the conventional approach," Rao replied, his eyes darting across complex equations scrolling on his screen. "But if we invert the phase relationship between emitters 3 and 7, we might be able to use the gravitational distortion to stabilize the field instead of fighting against it." "That wasn't in the simulations," Maya noted. None of this was in the simulations, Captain, Rao replied with a grim smile. We're improvising now. Maya nodded. Do it. As Rao reconfigured the emitter array, Lieutenant Commander Tanaka called out from the pilot's station. Captain, structural integrity at 29% and falling. Even with the reinforced hull, we can't maintain position for more than 6 minutes. The neutron stars will collide in 14 minutes, added Chen. We need at least 8 minutes to deploy the quantum field and ensure it's stable. Maya considered their options. There weren't many. Divert power from life support to structural integrity fields, she ordered. That should buy us a few extra minutes. Captain, that will reduce oxygen levels to minimal survival thresholds, protested Chen. We don't need to survive long, Maya replied. We just need to complete the mission. As the life support systems powered down, the air aboard the Daedalus grew thin and cold. The crew's breaths became visible as condensation in the chilled air. Emitter reconfiguration complete, announced Rao, his voice weakening from oxygen deprivation. Quantum field generators at 97% capacity, ready to deploy on your command. Maya took a shallow breath of the thinning air. Activate quantum field generators. The ship shuddered as massive amounts of energy flowed through the pylons. Outside, space itself seemed to warp and bend as the quantum field took shape, an invisible barrier designed to redirect the gamma-ray burst that would soon emerge from the colliding neutron stars. Field stability at 62%, reported Rao, fighting to stay conscious. Need to adjust harmonics. His hands moved sluggishly across the controls. On the view screen, the 8 pylons glowed with increasing intensity as they projected the quantum field into the space between the neutron stars and the inhabited systems. Field stability at 78%, 83%, 89%. Rao called out, his voice barely audible over the groaning of the ship's hull. We need 95% for effective radiation redirection. Suddenly, a thunderous crack echoed through the bridge as a support beam gave way. Warning klaxons blared as the ship's computer announced, critical structural failure imminent. Evacuate immediately. No evacuation possible, Maya muttered to herself. Then louder. Status of the quantum field. Holding at 91%, Rao responded. Need more power to reach optimal stability. Maya made a quick decision. Divert power from engines and remaining life support. Everything we have into the quantum field generators. Captain, that will leave us with no maneuverability and approximately 3 minutes of breathable air, Chen warned. The neutron stars will collide in 9 minutes, Maya replied. We won't need air or engines after that. As the last reserves of power flowed into the quantum field generators, the lights on the bridge dimmed to almost nothing. Emergency chemical light sticks cast an eerie glow over the faces of the crew, now pale from cold and oxygen deprivation. Field stability at 94%, 95%, 97%, announced Rao triumphantly. Quantum field deployed and stable. If our calculations are correct, it will redirect the gamma-ray burst away from the inhabited systems. A ragged cheer went up from the surviving crew members, quickly silenced by a series of explosive decompressions as sections of the ship began to fail under the immense gravitational pressure. Hull integrity at 18%, reported Tanaka, his voice faint. Complete structural failure in approximately 2 minutes. Maya nodded, accepting the inevitable. Broadcast to all frequencies, she ordered. Message to Galactic Assembly. Quantum field deployed successfully. Field stability at 97%. Calculations project complete redirection of gamma-ray burst. Daedalus crew sends our regards. As the message transmitted, Maya looked around at her crew. The brave men and women who had volunteered for what they all knew was likely a one-way mission. Despite the pain, the cold, and the knowledge of imminent death, she saw no regret on their faces. It has been my greatest honor to serve with all of you, she said simply. Commander Chen, struggling to remain conscious, managed a weak smile. Worth it. 26 billion lives. Worth it. The bridge shuddered violently as more systems failed. The view screen flickered, showing one last image of the neutron stars, now terrifyingly close to collision. Structural integrity at 9%, announced the computer dispassionately. Critical failure in 30 seconds. Maya closed her eyes, picturing Earth, the blue oceans, green forests, and sprawling cities she would never see again. Then she thought of the 12 inhabited systems they were trying to save, worlds she had never visited, populated by species she barely knew. It had been worth it. As consciousness began to fade, the last thing Maya heard was Rao's voice, barely a whisper. Field holding. It's working. It's actually working. On the Ardani observation vessel, stunned silence gave way to frantic activity as sensors detected the quantum field stabilizing between the neutron stars and the inhabited systems. Impossible, whispered a Melbury scientist. They've actually created a stable quantum field at that magnitude. The human ship? Silith inquired urgently. The sensor officer's skin pulsed with somber colors, losing structural integrity rapidly. They have perhaps seconds before complete failure. Can we extract them? Tractor beams. Teleportation. Demanded Silith. Negative. The gravitational distortion makes any rescue attempt impossible. On the view screen, they watched as the Daedalus began to break apart, fragments of the vessel scattered by the immense forces surrounding it. Then, a blinding flash as the neutron stars finally collided. Every beam on the observation deck held their breath as sensors tracked the resulting gamma-ray burst, one of the most energetic events in the universe. The deadly radiation surged outward at the speed of light, heading directly toward the quantum field created by the humans. Radiation redirecting, announced the sensor officer, their skin brightening with astonishment. The field is working. The gamma-ray burst is being channeled away from the inhabited systems. Cheers erupted across the observation deck as the sensor data confirmed what seemed impossible. The human plan had worked. 26 billion lives would be spared. In the midst of the celebration, Silith noticed something on a secondary sensor display. Magnify Sector 47 Alpha, he ordered. The display zoomed in to show a small object tumbling away from the collision site. A lifeboat, heavily damaged but intact. Life signs, Silith demanded. The sensor officer concentrated on the readings. Faint but present. 3. No, 4 human life signs detected. In critical condition, but alive. Dispatch medical ships immediately, ordered Silith. Maximum speed. As rescue vessels raced toward the survivors, Silith stood contemplating what he had witnessed. In the span of a few days, a species considered primitive by galactic standards had accomplished what the combined wisdom of 37 advanced civilizations had deemed impossible. 3 weeks later, a special session of the Galactic Assembly convened. The chamber was packed beyond capacity, with many species sending larger delegations than usual for this historic occasion. At the center of the chamber stood Captain Maya Rodriguez, still bearing the scars of her ordeal. Beside her were the 3 other survivors, Dr. Rao, Commander Chen, and Lieutenant Commander Tanaka. All 4 humans looked frail but proud as they faced the assembly. Ambassador Silith approached them, his skin glowing with formal patterns reserved for the highest ceremonies. Captain Maya Rodriguez, he began, his translator conveying the solemnity of the occasion. Dr. Sanjay Rao, Commander Lin Chen, Lieutenant Commander Akira Tanaka. On behalf of the 37 member species of the Galactic Assembly, and especially the 12 systems saved by your actions, I extend our deepest gratitude. He gestured, and assistants brought forward 4 crystalline objects that pulsed with inner light. These are the stars of preservation, the highest honor the Assembly can bestow. Never before have they been awarded to non-member species. Today, we make an exception for exceptional deeds. As the humans accepted the awards, Silith continued, the Assembly has also voted unanimously to offer humanity full membership status, waiving the usual technological and developmental requirements. Maya exchanged glances with her crew before responding. Ambassador, we are honored by both the awards and the membership offer. However, humanity still has much to learn. We would prefer to earn our place among the stars rather than receive it as a reward. A murmur of surprise ran through the assembly. Zilith's skin flickered with amusement. Perhaps you misunderstand, Captain. The assembly is not offering membership as a gift. We are acknowledging that humanity has already earned it, not through technological advancement, but through the qualities you displayed: ingenuity, courage, and the willingness to sacrifice for others. These are the true measures of an advanced civilization. Maya considered this, then nodded. In that case, Earth accepts with gratitude. As the formal ceremony concluded, Silith approached Maya privately. There is something I have been curious about, Captain. Before your mission, you used a phrase, "Hold my beer." Our translators could not provide adequate context. What does it mean? Maya smiled. It's an old Earth expression, Ambassador. It refers to someone who accepts a challenge that others consider too dangerous or impossible. They hand their drink to a friend and say, "Hold my beer," meaning, "Watch me prove you wrong." Zilith's skin rippled with understanding. An apt description of humanity, it seems. When the galaxy said that's suicide, you said, "Hold my beer." Maya finished with a smile. And we're just getting started.